Baby, here I go, start the show. Beat on my heart, now about to explode. I'm about to explode. Feel good, what I'm feeling.
Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you, wherever you happen to be watching from. I do believe that it will be the right time for you to get exactly what you need. Welcome to this week's episode of Ignite Your True Self. I am Ericka Sallee, your host for this conversation, and I have been looking forward to this all day, although it has been a busy kind of day, just keeping my head down and getting things done. And so here I am with you for another episode of Ignite Your True Self. But if you are joining me here for the first time, let me take a moment to first of all welcome you and to briefly introduce myself. I am Ericka Sallee, speaker, self-help author, transformation success coach, and owner of True Synergy. And as a result of my personal coaching and professional development programs, I help women and organizations to figure out what stands in the way of their success. And I get super excited about sharing strategies to help move beyond those barriers so that you can create, yes, your true self, your best version, your true synergy, which simply means that you are living well, that you are purposeful, fulfilled mentally, physically, and spiritually, and every facet of your life is something that you are striving to live to the fullest. And so this show is an opportunity that I get to share small nuggets with you, because let's face it, sometimes we just need a little extra something to get us moving, to keep us going. And so if you've landed here, whether you're joining me live or you happen to see the replay, then I'm hoping that you get exactly what you need to just give you that little bit of a spark, so that whatever it is that you are aspiring to do, or even if you don't know what that is, but you hear something in this conversation tonight or other shows, and you can certainly go to my YouTube channel to get all the other episodes, then those are the things that will hopefully get you to start thinking about, well, what does my true self look like? And there you have it. And so this is an opportunity for me to ignite a little spark within you, just so that you can go ahead and move forward. You know, I talk a lot about the best version of yourself. I talk about the true essence of who you are, your true synergy, your true self. All of those things simply means that you are living in a place where you feel good about who you are and what you bring to the world. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's conversation. But before I do that, I do want to remind you that if you are watching and you hear something that resonates with you, you want to share that out, I do ask you to use the hashtag Ignite Your True Self. Notice that true is TRUSELF. Hashtag Ignite Your True Self. Let your community know what you are up to and what you are hearing in this space that might not only resonate with you, but may also inspire someone else as well. So listen, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I want to really take some time to share a little bit about this, because I think we're living in a time where it is oh so important to focus on mental health awareness. Now, I do want to make a distinction, because oftentimes we hear mental health and mental illness, those two concepts or those two phrases interchanged when we are having conversations. So the first thing that I'd like to do is to just make the distinction between mental illness and mental health. Okay. So mental illness is a wide range of diagnosed conditions that affect your mood, that affect thinking and behavior. Those can include things like clinical depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, and a host of other things. And so when we think about mental illness, let's be clear that it is around a diagnosed condition that affects cognition, that affects emotion, and things of that nature. But when we talk about mental health is something that each and every one of us should be mindful of. That is, how do we live day to day? What is it that we're doing in order to manage the stress that we deal with on a daily basis? How are we making decisions? How are we processing things? How are we taking care of ourselves, whether that's physically, spiritually, emotionally? And that's really something that we should commit to every single day. Like every single person should carve out that niche of things that you go to, that you rely upon to maintain a positive mental space for yourself. Mental health means that you are basically taking care of all the things that you need in order to process and really get through. And I will tell you, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you, but I will say it anyway, that when COVID hit, we were really dealing with a lot, trying to process. Like, I still marvel at the fact that this was something that affected us globally. Like, every single person on the planet was affected by COVID. And so not just the situation and everything that came along with it, but trying to process post-COVID. And so when you think about mental health and the space that we should strive to be in, it is I think one of the things, that the positive things that came out of COVID is this heightened awareness around mental health and how to take care of ourselves and how important it is. And so while we have this month carved out, and I've talked about this the last couple months with the other things that we have been raising awareness of: Black History Month, Women's History Month, Black Women's History Month, which was just last month. And here we are in May with Mental Health Awareness Month. And so while the month is set aside to recognize these things, it is imperative for us to continue to emphasize them on a daily basis, even after the calendar says that the recognition of them is over. And so what I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to move on to the topic for tonight, is to make it your commitment to be intentional about taking care of you. I probably cannot say that enough. And I'm not going to rush through this part of the conversation just to get to tonight's topic, because I think it's just that important. But we have to be very committed. We have to be very unapologetic. We have to be intentional. We have to be focused on taking care of us. I'm sure that every person watching has some stuff going on, whether it's in your family, whether it's with your business, whether it's with your job. You're trying to process how to pay the bills, how to make sure your kids are straight, how to put food on the table, how to make sure your rent or your mortgage is paid, how to make sure that you have gas in your car, how to make sure that you're showing up for your family, your friends, and you got to be the best coworker, and you got to be the best worker, and all of the things that come along with what we deal with every single day. And we don't take care of ourselves. I mean, you all have heard me. If you have ever seen anything that I've posted, if you've ever had any conversation with me, if you've ever worked with me as a client, you know this is nothing new. But when you turn on the television and you see all the things, and you talk to your friends and you talk to your family, and you hear people saying they're stressed and they're trying to figure it out, and there's so many things going on, it's incumbent upon us to recognize how important this time is right now. And I'm asking for every person who is watching this and who'll see this later, that as I'm talking, and even when this is over, that you say to yourself, I'm making a commitment to own my mental health wellness. I'm taking a commitment to own good mental health. I'm taking a commitment to own taking care of myself. I'm taking a commitment to make sure that self-care is not just something I think about on Saturday or Sunday, but every single day I'm doing something to nurture myself. I'm doing something to honor the fact that, you know what, sometimes I'm not having a good day, and it's okay. I was having a conversation with a friend just a couple of days ago. In the line of work that she's in, she sees a lot of stuff that can weigh on her so heavily. And as I was talking to her, I could hear it in her voice. I could just hear just the heaviness and how she was feeling. And that, coupled along with everything else that's going on, you turn on the news, you see this, that, and the other. And we get stressed. We get in this place of overload, trying to process, because it just seems like it's one thing here, there, this, that, and the other. And so just having that conversation with her, and I wasn't trying to fix it. I know that I could empathize, but because I'm not in her situation with what she sees every day, I couldn't 100% relate to that part of it, but I could feel it and I could hear it. And so sometimes your mental health is about having a conversation with someone. It's just saying, you know what, I just need to get this off my chest. I just need somebody to listen. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep moving on, because I could probably make this entire show about mental health awareness. And I don't know how the rest of the show is going to go. I know what's on my script and I know what I want to cover. But if I feel so inclined to keep injecting conversation around this, I'm going to do that. So you all just have to kind of flow with me wherever this conversation goes tonight. But I think is so very important for us to think about, what does my mental health mean? What does it mean? For many of us, and I'll use myself as an example, I'm like, I've talked about this and I don't mind sharing it. I don't mind saying it. I'll say it every week if I have to. But therapy is something that is readily available to many of us. And it's important. It's not a stigma. It's not something we should be ashamed of. It's not something that you should hold on to, this old thing that maybe you brought in from your family history that says, no, we don't do that. Absolutely. It is something that is available, that is that is helpful to help us to get past some things that we may be dealing with. And so there's lots of different things to think about and consider when we think about our mental health. So I'm going to try to move away from just the fullness of it, because there's so much. But if you don't get anything else out of this conversation, this part right here, I want you to know that your health and your well-being matters. And nobody's going to own that any more than you. So you might be waiting for somebody to give you permission to take care of you. You might be the person who says, you know what, I never take off. I can't take a day off. And if that's you, I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to move on. When you get to the end of the year and you say, man, I got all this vacation time, that's not something to brag about, because what that means is you have not even used that as an opportunity to honor your mental health. Because sometimes a day, a two, a week off can be just the thing that you need, especially if your work environment contributes to the stress and elevates your mental stress. Okay. So again, I could stay on this the rest of the show. I know we have a limited time here in this space, but I will be continuing to have this conversation throughout the rest of the month. And I'm sure that with the other topics that I'll be covering throughout the show, then you'll hear it again. But suffice it to say that it is the perfect time to start thinking about what mental health looks like for us. And, I'm not a licensed clinician, but mental illness is real. And if there's someone that you know who needs something a little bit more extensive to address that mental illness, then it is my prayer that if you know, how do I want to say this? If you know someone who may be suffering from mental illness, or who needs to know whether something needs to be diagnosed, I think is what I'm trying to say. And there's something that you can do to support that person, if it's making a phone call, if it's a wellness check, or anything of that nature. I know we're in sort of like this dicey time where there's so much to consider when it comes to that. But I just wanted to mention it because there's a lot going on in the world that we live in. And so good evening to you. Good to see you on with me live, Jaquista. I've got about 3 months of vacation time saved. Is that right? 3 months of vacation time. Now, I'm going to jump through this screen and get you. Okay. So I don't know. I'm going to just be real frank. There's no way in the world you should have 3 months of vacation time saved. Right? Because what that says is that you're not taking time for you. Now, I will also say this, that if you took a day or a week, do you realize that when you get back, the building is still going to be there? Everything that you left when you took that time, it's still going to be there. Now, here's the thing, and then I think I'm going to move on. But again, I'm going to just go where the conversation goes. Some people say, well, I can't take a day off. I can't take a week off. It's going to be so much stuff when I get back and it's going to be too stressful. So which is the better of the two options? For you to stay stressed and keep pressing yourself and have your stress level elevated to the point where you're about to lose it? Or if you say, you know what, I know that stuff is going to be there and I know it's going to be more emails that I'm going to have to go through, but you know what, if I don't take this time, do I want the added stress, or do I want to like check out for a minute, get myself together, my mind, my body, my spirit, and then come back, because I'll be in a better frame of mind. The likelihood that I'll be in a better frame of mind is higher to address those emails rather than continuing to press forward, continuing to press forward. It absolutely drives me bananas. And I'm just going to say this because as women, sometimes we feel like, no, 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 I can stay in there. I can do it. I'm just going to keep, grinding and grinding and grinding. So what happens when you grind yourself down into the ground? What happens when you no longer have the mental stamina, the strength, the will, the desire to do something that you want to do? And this is not just to the person who put the comment about the vacation. It's every single person. If you are watching this now and you say, oh, I can identify with that, then how can you change the narrative? Because my next question would be, if you're giving all of that to someone else's agenda, how much of that are you giving to yourself? Are you giving yourself a fraction of what you give to somebody else in order to invest in you? And if the answer to that question is no, then let this day right here be the time when you say, I'm no longer going to do that because I am worth it. I desire, I deserve, I need to be the healthiest version of myself, because if I'm not, then what good am I to anything or anybody else? And I guess I'm at the point where I'm just tired of hearing people talk about how much they're giving to other things and other people. And then when you say, well, what are you doing for yourself? It's like, well, I don't have time. Stop it. Stop it. And I wasn't even expecting this conversation to go this way. And I actually appreciate the comment being made, because she's not the only one who's doing it. And trust me when I tell you, if you walk out the building and God forbid, if something happens, then guess what's going to happen? They're going to fill your spot just as surely as they can get your first and last name out of their mouths. And, oh, it was nice working with her or him. So if you are sitting here and you got all this vacation banked, or you just say, I can't stop, I can't slow down, then let this be the moment where you say, you know what good is this doing me? And how is this serving me well? So, okay, I'm a move on, but I needed to get that out because, I think and part of it is I've been having these conversations over the last probably couple of weeks, and, I'm hearing, and it's like, I'm hearing from one person, oh, I don't have no energy, I'm tired. And I'm like, what is that? Is that good for you? And the reason why is because you're pouring into everything and everybody else. And this is a message for the organizations and the employers who are listening or who will get wind of this. And I'm going to say it like this. When COVID, we were in the throes of it. It was like, there was a time when it's like, oh God, COVID, and people need to understand, take care of themselves. And we need to think about stress management and mental wellness and all of those things. And now that we are post-COVID, my question is, are we losing sight of that? So for every organization who was advocating for their workers and their employees to take care of themselves and to manage stress, is that conversation still part of what we're whispering out of our mouths and what we're encouraging our workforce to do? That's a whole nother conversation. And I know part of the answer because I'm hearing it. But anyway, okay, so let me keep moving. And I hope you got what you needed from that, and on whatever level. And yeah, there was a little anger and frustration in my voice, and it was intended to be that way. So I hope that you take it however you need it and make it work for you. So let me get into the topic for tonight. Tonight's topic: 3 ways that you might be repelling the exact people that you need to be attracting into your life. Now, I know that's a long title, but I just want you to read it. And I just want it to sit for just a moment. 3 ways that you may be repelling the exact people that you need to be attracting into your life. Now, there's a whole lot of meat in this conversation, but I'm going to try to make it really quick and give you what you need and get you moving on to the rest of your evening. And as I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my notes, I'm also thinking, when I originally planned this conversation, it was as it pertains to other people, right? Like how you might be repelling people outside of you that you want to attract. And as I'm sitting here saying it, there's a part of my brain that's saying, well, what is it that you might be doing to repel the person that you want to be? Now, I don't know if that's a separate topic or if there's some way that I'm going to weave it into this conversation. I don't know. But let me just share these 3 tips that I have, or 3 ways that you can identify, like how are you potentially, and if you think about a magnet, right? And you think about the parts of the magnet that attract. And when I think about these 3 ways, it's like instead of the pieces being drawn together, it's like, no, I can't. I'm trying to get to this one, but I can't. I'm trying to pull in, I'm trying to connect, but oh, it's something that's pulling me apart. So think about that. And so here's one of the things that you can tell, like if I'm trying to pull close, or I'm trying to get close, and I just don't. One of the ways that you might be doing that is that you might be assuming that others know what you need. How often have you, and so when we say assume, the is it the acronym for assume is that you make an ass out of you and me because you're thinking that someone knows what you need. And when they don't know, then you get frustrated and you're like, well, they don't know, they don't hear me, they don't understand me. Well, have you ever taken the time to say what you need? Because if you then open your mouth and say what you need and you're very clear about it, then you could be drawing the right energy that you need towards you. So let me give you a quick example. And I'm going to go back to what I was saying earlier in terms of owning that time for you. And if I'm going to use the day off or the vacation time as an example. So let's just say, you're working for an employer or a boss who just has this expectation that everybody is supposed to work, ad nauseum. Like, okay, if you're supposed to be an 8-hour worker and, everybody else is working 9 hours and you're like, oh, everybody else is doing it. But what you need to attract to you is a better way of being for yourself. And you also need to attract a level of respect for you and what you need. Then you need to say, so here's an example. You're assuming, and you say to yourself, okay, I really need to 8 hours. Maybe I can do an extra 30 minutes, but I can't do 9-10 hours. And you think that maybe people know that because you're the one who's logging off after the 8 hours, 8.5 hours, and everybody's like looking, but you don't say to your boss or to your team, I understand that there's a lot going on. And I'm using this as an example because I know somebody will say, well, my job is different. And so I'm just using this as an example. You get to take it and apply it how you need to. But you assume other people know what you need. So when you walk away and people are thinking that they know why, or they're making assumptions about why, well, she's not a team player, she doesn't want to do this, and she's not willing to. And you might say, well, you know what? I need the time to decompress. It's been a long day. We've put in a lot of effort. I've done X, Y, and Z. So I need to be able to log off, to reset, to walk away, because then the next day is going to come real fast. So I use this example. Again, the topic is ways that you're repelling the exact people or the exact things that you need to attract into your life. So I want to add that extra word because in this example, the thing that you might need is the opportunity to reset. You might need to slow your brain down. You might need to just stop and just shut it down because you can only take in but so much information. And so you can't assume that other people recognize that that's why you're stepping away after 8 hours or 8.5 hours unless you say it. Right? Now, the flip side is, there should not be a consistent expectation or demonstration that you need to be working all these hours past your normal time. That is a whole nother conversation. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to like to hear that, but it's the truth. So the first way that you may be repelling the exact people or the exact things that you need or that you need to be attracting is that you're assuming other people know what you need, but you haven't said it out of your mouth. You haven't spoken the words to say, this is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. And that way, when you say it, nobody has to make assumptions. Nobody has to try to create their own narrative. Nobody has to try to create stories in their head about what you're doing, what you need. No, because you've already said. You've been very clear. Okay. So the first way that you might be is that you're like, oh, they already know. No, well, maybe they don't. Or maybe they know and they may be ignoring and not kind of paying attention because you haven't said anything. But the moment you do say something and you honor yourself by continuing to make sure that people don't have to assume what you need because you said it and you made it very clear on a consistent basis, then there's no room for ambiguity. Okay. So that's the first way that you may be repelling. And again, I want to be clear with how I'm adjusting the topic a little bit. So it is about, the ways that you may be repelling the exact people or the things that you need to be attracting into your life. So if you need to attract more time for you, more time to take time off when you have a whole bucket of it, then you need to make sure that you don't let people assume that they already know what you need or they know how you operate. Oh, she's good. She's not going to take time off. She's always going to be here. We're always going to rely on her. No, I need some time. So you might be repelling that personal time and your own mental health and wellness because you haven't spoken what it is that you require in order to be well. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the flow. The second way that you might be repelling the people or the things that you need is if the relationship with the people is not reciprocal, right? So again, I'm going to use this example of the magnets. Okay. So here you are, you're trying to attract something. Now, this could be anywhere attraction shows up. So whether you're trying to attract the right job, whether you're trying to attract the right person, I'm going to use those two examples. So let's say here you are, you're trying to attract that thing. And so you're trying to go in like this, but what you're finding is that here's the thing. And then here you are, right? You're steadily moving toward, but the other thing or other person is not moving toward you. So it's not reciprocal. So what that means is, okay, let's use a job as an example. You're moving towards you see something you're interested in and you're reaching out to somebody. You're like, hey, I want to talk a little bit more about the job and what it entails. And the person is like not calling you back, not responding to your emails. Oh, we'll set up some time and doesn't do that. So you're trying to attract, but it's not reciprocated. Now that could go either way because somebody might be trying to pull toward you and you're doing this. Okay. Let's think about it from a relationship standpoint. Now I'm going to say, I've said this multiple times and if you don't know, I'll say it. I'm single. And so this whole world of meeting people and going out on dates and all this kind of stuff is a whole new ball game. Okay. So let's use this as an example. Again, topic, 3 ways that you're repelling the exact people that you need to be attracting into your life. So you're trying to connect with a person and, you're doing this and maybe, the person is doing this and you're like, ooh, or vice versa. The person's right here and you're like, okay, and it's not being reciprocated. Okay. Now there's a couple ways to look at that because the one side is, well, you know what? Sometimes you try to have that magnetic draw. And if the draw is not coming back to you, then maybe it's not intended to. That is a very true fact. Okay. But let's just say, for the sake of the conversation and topic, that there's something that this other person that you're trying to draw toward, that person has what you need, and you know that. But you're like, okay, I'm just gonna pull back because I don't know, I'm scared. There's a whole lot, and you can read the signs, and you're like, yep, that's exactly what I need. But I'm just gonna keep pulling back. So my question is, well, how do you move past that? You're like, oh, if it's not being reciprocated, and that's the pull is going in a different direction or not going at all. The question is, what is the benefit if I keep pulling, and if I keep like, okay, I'm not, then what is it that you could potentially be missing out on? This person might be able to show you a new perspective, might be able to lead you to another resource, might be able to help open up another door, might be totally different from what you expect, might be totally someone that you like, oh gosh, this is like I never would have thought that that person would be the person who could guide me, direct me, give me insight, like all of those things. So if you continue to not reciprocate, then you might be missing out on the very thing that that person can lead you to. Okay. So number two, second way that you're repelling is that either you're not reciprocating or you're not being reciprocated to. So that repelling is coming from the other person, right? They're sitting back. It's like, okay, I know this person is good for me. They have the information, they have the wisdom, they have the knowledge, they have this, they have that. And it could be that you're in your own little space, right? Just not allowing yourself to move some other barriers that you may have in place that's keeping you from being able to reciprocate that relationship, that connection, that communication, whatever that is. Okay. So, and really, that's a whole level of conversation that goes way beyond the time that's allotted for tonight's topic. But this is way number two. Okay. The third way that you may be repelling the exact people or the exact things that you need to be attracting into your life, this is a big one for me, is that your energy level doesn't align, right? Your energy level doesn't align. I've seen this quite a bit, where, okay, maybe the person is reciprocating. Maybe you're getting some feedback from someone in a particular situation. And again, you can use this in a work environment, you can use it in a personal environment, however it makes sense to you. But the third way is that your energy level doesn't align. So let's say there is a resource in your space, and this resource is intended to help you, but your energy is like lackadaisical. Lackadaisical or lackadaisical. I think I said that right. Lackadaisical. For some reason, when it came out, I was like, is that the way the word is said, or is that the way we say it and it's wrong? But anyway, so you know. So here's an example. Again, I was having a conversation with someone recently, and there was a friend who needed some help with something. Okay. And so the person agreed, okay, sure, I'll help you. Now, this is the person that the other person should have been attracting, because there was a need there that the person was ready to fulfill. However, the person who was in need assumed that the person who was going to provide the need was going to reach out and fulfill the need, as opposed to the person who needed to follow up with the person who was able to provide the need. Y'all follow me? So your energy doesn't align means that you're like, well, okay, I'm here, I'm waiting on you. Okay, well, you are helping me, so I shouldn't be waiting on you. I should be advocating for myself, and I should show up and say, hey, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you're able to help, and I'm here to collect. Now, that's not, that's just the way of saying that the person is actually owning the fact that they need to take the first step. If somebody's willing to help you and they said it, then you follow up and you take the step. But if your energy doesn't match the fact that the giver is ready to give, and you sitting back thinking that they're supposed to do you even more of a favor to follow up with you when you need, then you are repelling the very thing or the person that you need in that moment. The same is true with a relationship, right? If you know that you are looking for, or you're trying to connect with a person, and your energy doesn't match the fact that you say you want to connect with the person, then you could potentially be pushing the very thing away that would be good for you. But if your energy is not there and you don't have the time and you can't, hold conversation that's intriguing and stimulating, then you could very well be missing out on that thing that may be good for you. There's a whole lot in that. I'm going to go to the comments. If you have any comments that you want to drop, any aha moments before we wrap up tonight's conversation, then please, by all means, do that. So that I can let you go and get on with your evening as we prepare to wrap up the conversation for tonight. I'm going to go back and recap the 3 tips again, or the 3 ways, whichever way sounds the best to you, then that's a good thing. You take it, and tips, ways, however you want to get it tonight. That sounded interesting, but I'm not sure how that didn't come out right. But I think you know what I mean at this point. So again, tonight's topic: 3 ways that you're repelling the exact people or the exact things that you need to be attracting into your life. Okay. Number 1, that you're assuming others know what you want. It's like you're trying to attract something. You want something to happen. You want to make a move. And you're like, oh, they already know, do they? Have I said it? Have I been clear? Have I even acknowledged that I have the right to be clear and to ask for what I want? Right? I hadn't planned to say this, but I am a Baltimore Ravens fan. I'm a Marylander, and so Ravens are my team. And if you've been into the sports world at any point in time, if you're into football, you know anything about Lamar Jackson, you know that the conversation over the last, I don't even know how many weeks, has been about, is he going to come back to Baltimore? Well, they finally made a deal, right? 5-year, $200 and some million, $100 and some other $1 million guaranteed. But here's what I heard today. The question in a press conference was asked of the GM, Ericka. And I think the question, I didn't hear the question, I just heard his response. I was surmising what the question was based on what he said. So I'm assuming the question was something like, well, what was it like to work with Lamar Jackson? And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said something like, he was direct, he was very open, and he said some other things, but it was the word direct that let me know that he was very specific about what he wanted. He wasn't going to assume that they would just, know exactly what he was asking for. But the word direct said to me that he was very vocal. There was something that he was trying to attract, dollars. He could get paid for being out on the football field and displaying his talent and hopefully bringing us a Super Bowl win. But he wasn't going to assume that other people knew what he needed, because he was trying to attract something. So he said it. So that's number 1. 3, that's the one way. But the way to not make people assume is to be open your mouth and say what you want, so that you can so you can attract what it is that you're desiring. Okay, let's move on. The second way, I'm jumping ahead. I guess that must mean it's time to wrap it up. But the second way that you could be repelling the thing or the people is that the relationship is not reciprocal. Either you are showing up, you're giving, you're trying, you're making an effort, and the other person isn't, which means that they could be missing out on what you're bringing to the table, and the other is true as well. So somebody else is showing up, somebody else is giving, and you're just like blowing it off, like, okay, whatever. And that could be the very thing that leads you to next. So that could be the second way that you're repelling people away. And here's the thing that I would say: how do you move beyond that? Because I want to make sure that you get the other side of it. If this is the way that you're repelling, well, how do you attract? Well, in this case, it is making sure that you have enough of the conversation, reciprocate enough communication, conversation, connection, so that you can talk about what you both bring to the table. And when you hear what that is, then you get to say to yourself, oh, wait a minute, I've been pushing back, and this is the very thing that I need. Let me get myself together, and let me sit down, and let me make a reasonable connection and make next steps happen. Okay. So that's really how to move beyond this. If the relationship is not reciprocal, and you know that you need to figure out, okay, let me just get this right. Let's have a conversation. Let's have some discussion. Let's iron some things out. Let's talk about goals. Let's talk about the things we want to get accomplished. Let's talk about what you bring to the table, what I bring to the table. And okay, there we have it. All right. So that's how you can move past that so that you can attract and act on the thing that you need. Okay. So that's the second thing. And then lastly, your energy level doesn't align. And I think how do you move past this is probably the same as the second. If your energy level doesn't align, well, maybe you need to sit down and have a conversation to say, what are your expectations? How can we meet in the middle? What do you need? What do you need from me? What support do you need? What support do I need? You're having those kind of conversations. So then you can decide, okay, we've had this conversation. I know this is what I need. So let's figure out how we can meet in the middle so that it's not like this, but we're coming closer to attracting together. Okay, so I tried to wrap that up in some really quick bullet points. Let me go to the comments really quickly before we wrap up. Okay, so I do have a plan to shorten my work week. Okay, that's perfect. Now, shorten your work week, which I assume means maybe you work a 4-day week, and then you have a day off, which is great. But that also probably means it might, and I don't know, I'm making an assumption, which is not a good thing because I already said what assumption means. So let me say it this way. I am inferring from that if that is the case, then you still might be working the same number of hours that you would work in a 5-day work week in 4 days, right? So that still doesn't, so maybe it does address some of the vacation time. Okay. The key here is making sure that you take the time for you. So however that needs to look, and if you need to start with that shortened work week just to get your toe in the water and get used to it, then that's a good thing. So celebrating you for that. Other comment. Me being here is a great example of attracting the energy you want in your life. Sometimes I feel like I'm stalking you, but in reality, your energy feeds me. I never feel like you are stalking me. I feel like you are always showing up. Now, that doesn't just mean here in this space for this show, but it just means anytime. And I'm talking to a former client. I'm sure that she would not mind me saying that because I think it has been said publicly in this arena and others. But you're always showing up. And hey, that's what this conversation is about giving you that little spark of energy that's going to help you move on to the next and do it in the best way that works for you. Okay, so using a vacation day per week. Okay, good. I'm celebrating you for that. And I just want to give you kudos for doing that because you owe it to yourself. And so starting with 1 day is great. And you got a whole lot of other days to use. So that 1 day can then move into maybe two. Keep me posted. So thank you for sharing your comments. So on that note, as we wrap up tonight's show, I do want to say thank you. For those of you who were able to join live, and for those of you who will come in and see the replay, I am going to encourage you to, yes, hashtag replay and to hashtag ignite your true self. And as you listen to the conversation, I also want you to comment on what resonates with you, right? Because you might comment and somebody else may see it and be like, oh, I like that. I needed that. So you might be here and then somebody else might get what you got and be able to move on with their little spark. Okay. So if you have other questions, you might be listening to this conversation and saying, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I've heard and there's so much that's going on and I just need to figure out how it applies to me. Then I do encourage you to visit my website, truesynergy.org. There's an opportunity for you to contact me for a discovery session for yourself, 30 to 45 minutes that says, hey, this is what I'm up to. What is it that I need to do? How can I move forward? Then absolutely take advantage of that opportunity. You can also follow me on my other social media handles. You can get all of that here on my link tree, which is linktree /truesynergy_. And you can connect with me on my social media handles. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Ericka Sallee. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, then I do encourage you to subscribe to my channel, share it out, and then turn the notification button on so that you are made aware when new videos are uploaded. If you want to go back and check out all the rest of the shows from the beginning of the year, you can go to the YouTube channel, click on the live button, and you can see the whole catalog of the shows, look at the topics, figure out which ones resonate with you. Hell, look at them all, because there's probably something in each and every one of them to give you that spark that you need. Just imagine if you watch all of them, oh, you might just combust into something brand new. So I do encourage you to do that. And lastly, what I will say is I do encourage you to stay connected with me on all of my social media sites. So go to my LinkedIn page. Be sure to follow me there. There's lots of good stuff that's getting ready to come out in just a few short months. And I want to make sure that you get all the information. I've got a major project going on. I'm super excited about that. You're going to be hearing more about it in the days and weeks to come, literally like right around the corner. So I want to make sure that you are abreast and in the know of all the excitement. So you want to make sure that you connect with me on social media and stay tuned with me here as well. So folks, listen. That does it for this week's show. I do appreciate you being here with me. Invite a friend or two or three or four or five to come in and join us next week. The month of May will finish out, and then there will probably be a summer break. And so do make sure that you tune in for the next few weeks, and I'll keep you abreast as to when I'll be on a little bit of a hiatus for some summer downtime. But we still got a few more weeks to go, so not to worry. Come on back and join me next week. Oh, next week's topic. Let me put it on the screen real quick. Next week, we're going to be talking about 3 habits that keep you stuck. All right. So you don't want to miss that conversation. So listen, I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. But until I do, I want you to take care of yourselves and yes, be well. Good night.